welcome back to another review video. So this is not the first time we have talked about this eyeshadow palette. I did a video months ago doing a swatch video with this, which I will link down below in the description if you want to check that. I won't be re-swatching it for this because I already did it. Let's not waste more product. So this is the Maybelline New York Soda Pop eyeshadow palette. It's got 12 shades in it, and honestly, for the price, it's not bad. Like, honestly, I mean, this was like $14-ish, I think. I got it at Walgreens. It's really surprisingly not bad. Now, there's a few duds in here that aren't so great, but most of them, I was really surprised at how they perform. Like, even the orange that I love the most to wear, like, you guys can see, is actually very pigmented, and I'm, like, really shook by that. Now, I, being me, took fucking notes. I didn't just take notes, I took 3 pages of notes on how each one performed. Because that's how I do. I know, it's eyeshadow. It's not that freaking serious, and yet when you're me, it is. It is. So, I went through color by color and wore them on their own to see how they performed, and I blended them with others to see how they performed, and I took notes as I went, and now I can finally say that I've put every single color in here through its paces and can do a true review, because, I mean, a swatch video, that's cute, but that doesn't really tell us everything we want to know about each color in it. So now I can do that. So, it also does have these 3 looks on the back that it suggests to try. I have yet to try combining them quite those ways. I just did my own combinations of colors, but anyway. So, going through. Here we are. Hopefully it won't dump pigment all over the place. We can already tell, generally, what my heavy hitters are because of the big old divots in some of them. But, the first one here is called Chilling. It's this big guy here. And by the way, this is lightly scented, so if you're sensitive to fragrance, this may not be a good fit for you, not only because of the fragrance, but because if you're sensitive to it, it has a bigger risk of irritating your eyes as well. Now, I didn't find this to be an issue for me, but I know there are people that this could be a problem for. It has a very, very, very light grape scent. It's like super subtle though, it's barely there, but it is worth mentioning since every time I open it I always forget about that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. So yes, Chilling, the first one. For me personally, this one's kind of a dud because it 100% perfectly matches my natural skin tone, so it does not show up in any way, shape, or form. I'm kind of reading off my notes here. It doesn't even look like I'm wearing shadow, but I mean, that's perfect for that no makeup look. But I know it has pigment in it since it masks the veins that are above my eyes, to where they don't even show through at all. I don't even have to build it up. That's with one coat. So, if you have a darker skin tone, I'm sure this one would show up fantastically on you. Like, even if you just had, like, a tan, it probably shows up pretty well. But for me, being the pale person that I am, it just does not show even a little bit. Let me hit stop till the phone stops ringing. Okay, sorry about that. Also had to go check since I'm applying for jobs, so I had to make sure it wasn't, like, anybody calling back, but it wasn't, so. Anyways, so, that first shade for me personally is a dud, but for other people with different skin tones, I'm sure that that one's not a dud, because it is pigmented. Like I said, it definitely has pigment. That pigment just doesn't show up on me, sadly. But it's good for blending into other things and lightening up certain tones and stuff. So, I mean, it has a purpose. It's gonna take me a while to use that one all the way up, just saying. Now, the next one in here is the one just beneath it. It's called Soda Fizz. Now, I love this guy. This one's great. It's really nicely pigmented, and it's buildable. It blends okay. It's not the best blending, feathering one, and the glitter fallout leaves a lot to be desired with this one, but ultimately it is really pretty, and of the 2 goldish shimmery shades in here, I do prefer this one to the other one, but that's just me. But the other one is called Tonic, and it's right up here, And it's a really beautiful, shimmery, sandy color. It goes on really buttery smooth, which is the thing that makes this one nicer than the other one. So it depends what you're going for, what your priorities for as you're putting it on. It does build up really beautifully, too. I mean, you can do sheer, you can do builded, it's all good. It shows up more than I honestly expected it to on me, because being that light, I figured it was gonna be, like, chilling all over again and not really show up, but it actually does. Even worn alone. But it's both good casually, and I mean, you can also do, like, low-key glam with it. It's a very versatile color, surprisingly. It seems so understated, but no, that one's actually really nice. And I feel like the glittery pieces in there are a much finer powder than they are in Soda Fizz, so that also makes it more of a shimmer than a glitter, really. So, next one in here is called Sugar High, and it's this gorgeous, it's right here, by the way, this gorgeous, slightly shimmery pumpkin shade. It has a lot of pigment, surprisingly. For some reason, I didn't expect that one to be as pigmented as it is, but, it doesn't blend as easily as some of the others in here, so if you want it for, like, very, like, distinctive, definitive blocks of color, it's good for that, or if you want to blend it into something where it's, like, on top, it's good for that, but on its own, like, trying to get it to feather out, it's not the greatest at that. So, I mean, I'll give credit where credit's due, but I'll also point out where its flaws are. That's the one flaw with that one. But other than that, I do love that shade. So, next one... Apparently I jumped around in here without realizing it. Like, I'll come back to Ginger Ale. Apparently I skipped that one till the very end without noticing, until I realized I only had 11 down and was like, wait, there's supposed to be 12 here. What did I miss? And it's that guy. So we'll come back. But the next one I did was Crushing, which these two, honestly, are arguably my faves out of the whole damn thing. But Crushing is like this super vibrant, super pigmented hue. A little bit goes a real long way with this guy. Like, you do not have to load up your brush for a lot of color. Like, just barely tap it in there. You don't want to swipe with this one. You want to just, like blot it on, basically, to, like, get the color down first before you do anything. And then from there, you can blend out and do whatever, but you do not want to swipe with this one. Word to the wise. So, it is buildable into this almost neon shade, which is so fun. Because honestly, from a drugstore palette, I don't usually expect that kind of vibrancy or anything neon, really. I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. But for as bright as it is, you can also soften it into like an almost sunset look. Kind of like what I'm doing with this guy here, but you can soften it even more than this one, actually. Next one is Grape Pop, which probably has, like, the biggest divot in it out of all of them, because I was doing it wrong at first, and was overusing it to try and build up the colors, before I realized I was using the incorrect brush, and that it was completely unnecessary to waste all that product to get a nice, even application, and then I felt really dumb. So, again, word to the wise, use the correct brushes. They actually do matter. I didn't used to think that mattered. I am quickly becoming educated on this, and it matters so freaking much, guys. So, this is actually a very much super pigmented shade, which, I mean, you can probably tell just by looking at it. It's really buildable. You want to use a densely packed eyeshadow brush for this one. I already mentioned that an incorrect brush will make for a patchy application. The first coat will still make for a bright purple shade. I'm sorry, I'm still reading off here. I should probably put it up here so it doesn't look like I'm looking down as far. But add another coat or two, and you'll get this super vibrant, shimmery, reflective shade. And when I say reflective, I am not joking. It is, like, very reflective, and it's so much fun. So let me flip this over. Okay. So the next one in here is Cherry on Top. And that one, initially, when I went in, I was a little nervous about, because I was like, how am I going to make that color work for me? That seems very dark and very daunting, but it's actually this really beautifully buildable matte maroon, and even like its first coat, it goes on sheer, but if you build it up a little bit, it's almost purple. So it goes very nicely with Grape Pop, actually. So you can wear it alone as like a statement color. You can like use it as the deeper end of a shading color for like a smoky eye. It's honestly, it's really versatile, surprisingly. And it's another one where you do not need much to go a long way, so don't go heavy-handed with this one, guys, unless you want your eyes to look like they're bleeding, which I don't think you want, but I mean, it is almost Halloween, so maybe you do. I don't know. Which brings us to the most deceptive one in the entire palette. Blue Raspberry. So with a name like Blue Raspberry, looking at it in here, you would assume that this would be like, I don't know, navy blue. A shimmery navy blue, no less. But I mean, it looks like it would be heavily pigmented, right, for being that dark? The Blue Raspberry is a lie. What you get is this thin, patchy slate gray. And, I mean, it's almost a gross color, honestly. It's buildable and blendable, sure, and it's good for a smoky eye, but it's nothing even remotely similar to what it looks like in this palette. So if you're going for a navy blue or a shimmery blue or anything, you're going to be disappointed because this does not go on anything even remotely close to that color. I was so sad. And then I had to make taste lists. Look at my eyeshadow look. It's the California Wildfire Smoke look. It's California Wildfire Smoky Eye. I'm an ass. I'm sorry. So the next one in here is Cherry Cola, which I've also used quite a bit. I really like this one. So despite its name and how it looks in the pan, this shade actually goes on closer to a rust than to a shimmery maroon, which is really surprising because look at it. Like, would you expect that to go on as rust? You would not. Like, that looks like it should be a pinky red. But it totally goes on rust. But it's not very buildable. What you see is what you get, basically, in terms of the pigment and all. And pretty much what goes down on the first coat is about the pigment you're going to get, period. This one doesn't really build, sadly. And it's not as smooth as the others, and you have to work harder to get an even application out of it. But it is still pretty. So, I mean, if you don't mind working a little harder to make it work for you, it is usable, but it's definitely not my favorite out of the palette, but it is usable, but it does have some very serious flaws. So then we have Cola Float, and that's what I have on today. Don't be fooled by the unassuming appearance of this one. It's actually really pigmented, again. As we can see, that's one coat, guys. That's one coat. Just saying. What's more is a tiny bit goes a long way. The color carries pretty far. Like, honestly, for as far out as I made this feather, I only put it on, like, the lower part of my lids. The rest of it is just feathered out from there, and it carries like that. I could have carried it further, but I didn't want to. But that's one thing I love about this one, is that it goes so far, even though they gave us a ton of it. So, I mean, it's gonna, like, take forever to use that up, honestly, but given that it's basically my favorite shade in the palette, I am not complaining. So it builds, and it blends really beautifully, but the only thing with it seems like it's more powdery than the rest of the shades in the whole palette. I don't know why that is, and it makes more of a mess while you're using it. It's the one that you see all over, like, in between the pans in here. I don't know why it's so powdery, but I imagine because it's so fine, that's probably why it carries and blends as well as it does. So, I mean, you win some, you lose some, but, it's a small price to pay for how nice this color is, honestly. And since I'm always, like, on the hunt for, like, the best autumnal orange eyeshadow, like, honestly, I love this one. This one kind of just wins everything in my book. So then we're at Root Beer. But remember, we have to come back to this guy. But Root Beer, it's another deceptive shade, which is really surprising. Like, you would think, how can you screw up this dark brown? Like, it should just be chocolatey brown. And it's not. And it looks like it'd be really pigmented. It's not. It's just this thin, gray, smoky shade. It's actually really similar to how Blue Raspberry goes on. I'm like, how did you screw up both of these that should have been like really dark and really pigmented? How did you manage to screw that up? I don't understand. I've tried it wet, I've tried it dry. Like, you can see a line in it from where I wet it down a little bit and swipe the brush through it, but it doesn't seem to matter. You just get this weird grayed thin color out of it. It's really disappointing. I mean, you can build this one better than Blue Raspberry, but it's not going to look like the shade it does in the pan. But it does blend and feather out nicely and easily, but it's disappointing when you're going into it expecting one thing and what you get out of it is something so vastly different, but just not even close to representative of what all's in there. So then we come back to ginger ale up here, and it's just like chilling. It disappears right into my skin tone. It definitely has a pigment too, since it also covers the veins on my eyelids completely. But again, I think on somebody even with a tan, this would show up. It's just, I can't say it's a bad color or a bad pigment just because I'm a pale person. So that's why I throw that disclaimer out there that I can tell it's pigmented, it doesn't show up on me. But overall, my experience with this has been actually much better than I went in expecting, and I think I would rate this like maybe a 7 out of 10. I am pleasantly surprised. I wish I could rate it higher, but the ones that are kind of fail hard, so that does pull down the score some, but the ones that do their job correctly, they do it really well. So I would say for a drugstore palette, a nice autumnal one to boot, this is actually a really good one to go to. It's very affordable, it's easily accessible. Virtually everywhere sells this one. They sell this one and the lemonade one, which I still need to review, but and both of those two palettes look like they could be part 1 and part 2, and like they're meant to go together as like one big palette, honestly. But really though, I am so pleasantly surprised with this, and I love it. I love it so hard, and I cannot recommend it enough. I would say that, you know, anyone who's even remotely interested in eye makeup should probably have this in their collection, especially if you're just starting out, or if you're just starting to get braver about wanting to play with more vibrant colors. This is a good one to play with because it is so affordable to where it doesn't feel as daunting to be experimental with it. Because even if you feel like you wasted some because a look didn't pan out, you only spent, well, like 14 bucks on it. That is far from breaking the bank. It's much better than spending like $40, $60, $80 on some palettes, you know, to get similar shades. I'd much rather spend my money better than that, you know, work smarter, not harder. But I think it's a very good starter palette, just saying. And even if you are more experienced, I've seen full-on makeup gurus speak so glowingly of this one too. So it's just an all-around good palette, I think. Is it the best one ever? I can't say that, but I can say it is a good palette and one that I do highly recommend, and that I probably use more often than any other palette in my collection. So that is it for this one, guys. So as usual, you know what to do. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you're not already and you'd like to be, click subscribe, hit that notification bell icon so you never miss an upload, leave comments down below. Make sure you're following my social media accounts, my Facebook fan page, my Twitter, my Instagram, my Etsy, everything and more. It's all down below. If you like what I do here on this channel and you'd like to help support it, the donation link, as always, is down in the description. Anyway, guys, till next time, bye-bye.